Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to see what happened during World War II in just 10 minutes. This will be a general overview of the entire war and its causes and consequences. Let's get started. The seeds of World War II were planted after the conclusion of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles was extremely harsh on Germany and the German people, forcing them to accept full blame for the war and imposing massive reparations on them. This led to a lot of resentment among the German people towards the victorious Allied powers. Out of this resentment would come Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party. Hitler promised to restore Germany to greatness and undo the perceived injustices of the Treaty of Versailles. And as the Great Depression hit and people became more desperate, more and more Germans joined the Nazi party. By 1933, Hitler had become Chancellor of Germany and he wasted no time in consolidating power and starting his campaign of aggression. In 1936, Hitler remilitarized the Rhineland, which was supposed to be demilitarized according to the Treaty of Versailles. The French, British, and other European powers did nothing to stop him. In 1938, Hitler annexed Austria and then the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia. Once again, the powers of Europe did nothing to stop him. It was becoming clear that if Hitler wanted something, he was likely to get it. And so it proved when in 1939, Hitler demanded the region of Poland, the Polish corridor, which would give Germany access to the Baltic Sea, as well as the city of Danzig and the region of Mim. The French and British now made some sort of stand against Hitler and promised to defend Poland if it came to it. But ultimately, when Hitler invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939, they did not intervene militarily. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany, but no shots were fired. The phony war had begun. It would last until May 10th, 1940, when Germany began its invasion of Norway. Denmark, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. Things were looking grim for the British and French. Germany's blitzkrieg or lightning war tactics was proving devastatingly effective. But then came the Battle of Britain. Germany's plan was to knock Britain out of the war quickly, before they could become fully mobilized. To do this, Germany would have to achieve air superiority over Britain. So they launched a massive air campaign against the Royal Air Force. For 6 months, the Luftwaffe attacked day and night, but the RAF fought back bravely and managed to shoot down more enemy planes than they lost themselves. And so Britain was not knocked out of the war. Hitler would launch one final massive attack on London in the hopes of breaking the British, but again, the British held firm. Eventually, Hitler would call off the attack and turn his attention to the Soviet Union, with Britain out of the immediate picture. It seemed like only a matter of time before France fell as well. But how does one fight a war on two fronts? Hitler would find out the hard way. On June 22nd, 1941, Germany launched a massive surprise attack against the Soviet Union. Over the next few weeks, German forces would advance hundreds of miles into Soviet territory. But then they began to run into supply problems. You see, Hitler had expected the Soviets to collapse within weeks, so he hadn't bothered to bring enough supplies with him. But the Soviets did not collapse, and the German advance slowed and eventually turned into a rout as the Soviets launched a massive... The Germans were forced to retreat hundreds of miles, leaving behind all of their captured territory and much of their equipment. Meanwhile, Japan had entered the war in 1941 by attacking Pearl Harbor, and had been doing quite well for itself. They had taken large parts of Southeast Asia and were pushing into India. But now that the Germans were bogged down in Russia, Japan realized that it needed to do more if it wanted to win the war. So, in April 1942, Japan launched a massive attack on the US naval base at Pearl Harbor. But the attack failed, and the United States was brought into the war. With the US now in the fight, the tide began to turn against the Axis powers. In 1942, the Japanese were pushed back at sea. Then in 1943, Germany lost the Battle of Stalingrad to the Soviets. Both Germany and Japan were now on the defensive, and it wasn't long before they were crushed completely. You see, in 1944, the Allies landed in Normandy and began their advance across Western Europe, while the Soviets pushed the Germans back on the Eastern Front. In 1945, Germany was collapsing. By April, Hitler was dead. By May, Germany had surrendered. But the war in the Pacific would continue for another year. It was until August 1945 that the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan before finally forcing them to surrender. World War II was over. Over 70 million people had died, most of them civilians. Whole cities had been wiped off the map. Millions of women had been raped. Millions of people had been enslaved. The world was a very different place now. The United States and the Soviet Union had emerged as the 2 superpowers of the world. Europe was in ruins and depopulated. Africa and Asia were still colonies, but the winds of change were beginning to blow. The old world order had been swept away, and a new one was being built. But wait, there's more. Click here to watch this video on D-Day, one of the largest amphibious assaults in history. Or click here to watch this video on Pearl Harbor, the event that brought the United States into World War II. Or click here to watch this video on the Holocaust, one of the darkest chapters in human history. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, click subscribe. I'll see you next time.